In the previous chapter, we have discussed about the various applications of remote sensing like in land cover, agriculture, natural resources, forestry, planning, mapping, ocean and coastal monitoring, etc. In this chapter, we will discuss about the application of remote sensing in urban planning. It has become a major sector of using remote sensing in planning in recent trends. Remote sensing in innovation, remote sensing data in urban studies, main requirements for urban planners, urban land use classifications, problems and issues in planning, remote sensing in innovation planning. In India, the complexity of urban development is so dramatic that it demands immediate action and perspective physical planning of the cities and towns. The dynamic nature of the urban environmental necessities both at macro and micro level analysis. Therefore, it is necessary for policy makers to integrate remote sensing with urban planning and management. Traditional approaches and techniques designed for towns and cities may prove to be inadequate tools when dealing with metropolis. New approaches are required and new methods must be incorporated into current practice. Until recently, maps and land survey records from 1960 to 70 were used for urban studies, but now the trend has shifted to use digital multispectral images acquired by EOS and other sensors. The trend towards using remotely sensed data in urban studies began with the first generation satellite sensors such as the Landsat MSS and was given impetus by the number of second generation satellites like Landsat TM, ETM and SPOT. The recent advent of third generation of very high spatial resolution satellite sensors is stimulating. The high resolution PAN and LIS3 merged data may be used together effectively for urban applications. Data from IRS P6 satellites with sensors on board, especially LIS4 mono and multispectral with 5.8 meters pixel spatial resolution is very useful for intensive urban studies. Advancement in technology of remote sensing has brought miracle in availability of higher resolution satellite imageries. They are the IRS P6 ResourceSat imagery with 5.8 meters resolution in multispectral mode, IRS 1D PAN image with 5.8 meters resolution, Cartosat 1 imagery of 2.5 resolution with stereo capabilities, Cartosat 2 with 1 meter, Iconos imageries of space imaging with 4 meters in multispectral mode and 1 meter in panchromatic mode. QuickBird imagery of digital globe with 61 centimeters resolution in panchromatic mode and so on. These high resolutions of sensors provide a new methodology in application with newly raised technical restrictions. Apart from cartographic applications, IRS 1D, LIS4 data will be great use in cadastral mapping and updating terrain visualization, generation of a national topographic database, utilities planning and other GIS applications needed for urban areas. The satellites will provide cadastral level information up to 1:5000 scale and will be useful for making 2 to 5 meters contour maps. The output of a remote sensing system is usually an image representing the scene being observed. Many further steps of digital image processing and modeling are required in order to extract relevant information from the image. Suitable techniques are to be adopted for a given theme depending on the requirement of the specific problem. Since remote sensing may not provide all information needed for a full-fledged assessment, many other spatial attributes from various sources are need to be integrated with remote sensing data. This integration of spatial data and the combined analysis is performed through GIS technique. It is a computer based assisted system for capture, storage, retrieval analysis and display of spatial data and non-spatial attribute data. The data can be derived from alternative sources such as survey data, geological, topographic maps or archived data. Data can be in the form of locational data such as latitudes or longitudes or tabular that is the attribute data. GIS techniques are playing significant role in facilitating integration of multi-layer spectral information with statistical attribute data to arrive at alternate developmental scenarios. Application of remote sensing technology may lead to innovation in planning processes in various ways. Digitizing of planning based maps and various layout plans has facilitated updating of base maps, whereas changes have taken place in terms of land development, etc. Digital maps provide flexibility as digital maps are scale free. Superimposition of any two digital maps which are on two different scales is feasible. This capability of digital maps to facilitate insertion of fresh survey or modified maps into existing base maps. Similarly, superimposition of revenue maps on base maps with reasonable accuracy is of a great advantage compared to manually done jobs. Since information and maps are available in digital format, correlating various layers of information about a feature from satellite imagery, planning maps and revenue maps is feasible with the help of image processing software like ERDAS Imagen, NV and PCI, Geomatica, ILVIS. Such superimposed maps in GIS software like MapInfo, ArcView, AutoCAD Map and ArcGIS, etc. provide valuable information for planning, implementation and management of urban areas. The remote sensing technique are extremely useful for change detection analysis and selection of sites for specific facilities such as hospitals, restaurants, solid waste disposal and industry. An attempt has been made to demonstrate the potential of remote sensing techniques in base mapping, land use and land cover mapping, urban change detection and mapping, urban infrastructure and utilities mapping, urban population estimation, management, etc. Remote sensing data in urban studies. The aerial photographs have long been employed as a tool in urban analysis. In India, city planning has been largely confined to aerial photography. It is being used for generation of base maps and other thematic maps for urban areas as it is proved to be cost and time effective and reliable. Wealth of information pertaining to land features, land use, built up areas, city structure, physical aspects of environment, etc. are available from the aerial photography. Various types of cameras, sensors, black and white, colored infrared are used for aerial photography. Because of the security concerns related to aerial photography, the use of photogrammetric techniques was confined to smaller cities. Aerial photographs provide information that significantly improve the effectiveness of city and town planning and management in India. They are also relatively low in cost, accurate, reliable and can be obtained on a desired scale. But they are not useful in large metropolitan areas. India is very much dependent on photogrammetry for providing information for urban planning purposes. But since March 17, 1988, with the launch of the first satellite IRS-1A equipped with LIS-1 sensor acquiring 72.5 meters per pixel data, the application of remotely sensed data from various sensors in urban and regional planning processes has gained momentum. LIS-1 gathered data in 4 spectral bands from 0.45 μm to 0.86 μm, was mainly used for broad land use, land cover and urban sprawl mapping. The IRS-1C and 1D satellites launched in 2003 carrying LIS-3 and LIS-4 sensor with spatial resolutions of 23.5 meter per pixel and 5.6 meter per pixel using Landsat MSS optical bands have contributed to effectiveness of urban planning and management. Early experiments with the first generation satellites found the data very useful for mapping large urban parcels and urban extensions. The development of Landsat TM data with 30 meter per pixel spatial resolution has helped in mapping level 2 urban land use classes. Cities and towns in India exhibit complex land use patterns with the size of urban parcels varying frequently within very short distance. The extraction of urban information from remotely sensed data therefore requires higher spatial resolution. The overwhelming advantages of remote sensing methods over tactile methods based on ground survey are the consistency, which can be ensured in at least one stage of the data collection, the rapidity of survey and the small number of skilled workers required at the data collection stage. It is possible in principle at least. Unlike the preceding data sources, the data use of satellite imagery ensures that the minimum of interpretation has been carried out by others. If the imagery is being collected especially by the purpose of the survey, the client will be able to specify time and environmental conditions which are best for his purpose, such as midday in winter conditions. For obtaining accurate land use data, the points should be considered as the characteristics of imagery, scale of the photography, geometric fidelity, contrast, sharpness, resolving power of the film, etc., waveband used, photographic or digital format, characteristics of land use, consistency of the relationship between form and function, degree of multiple use, the amount of ground control, change since imagery was obtained, characteristics of user, interpretation skill, use of stereoscopic techniques, etc. Main requirement for urban planners. Apart from topographical mapping, planners also look forward to remote sensing data products technology to provide them information on existing land use and the periodic updating and monitoring. In addition, with appropriate techniques and methodology, the same data products can be used to study urban growth, sprawl and trend of growth, updating and monitoring using repetitive coverage, study of urban morphology, population estimation and other physical aspects of urban environment, space use surveys in city centers, slum detection, monitoring and updating, study of transportation system and important aspects both in static and dynamic mode, site suitability and catchment area analysis, study of open or vacant spaces. High spatial resolution satellite data are highly beneficial in the context of complex urban areas where relatively small size and complex spatial patterns of the component seen elements, that as example buildings, roads, have restricted the use of low resolution spaceborne sensors. These new images thus increase the amount of information attainable in urban form at local level. Urban land use classification criteria. Classification is therefore an activity of subdividing a group of objects in two or more groups, that is, to arrange the objects into class according to some system or principle. This can be based on activity, economic function, physical appearance or simple land cover. There are some guidelines of classification. The classification system should be applicable over a large area covering both city core and its surroundings. Classification should be suitable for using remotely sensed data obtained at different time periods. The minimum interpretation accuracy and reliability in the identification of land use should be about 85% subject to level of classification of different land uses. The nomenclature, definition and the framework to the extent possible should be compatible with existing terminologies adopted in planning agencies. Classification should be easier to understand and flexible. Aggregation of similar or multiple land use classes should be possible at different levels of requirements. The classes must be mutually exclusive, that is, any geographical individual can only fall into one class. Wherever possible, it must be based upon the quantitative criteria. Problems and issues. When remote sensing is used, many problems arise during interpretation of different urban land use or land cover features, in which cloud patches on the satellite data is one important. Another problem in remote sensing data, depending upon the urban building size, the spectral contrast with the surrounding area, is that some buildings in urban area may be identified, while others may not. In other hand, while the individual houses cannot be always being identified, group of houses and city blocks can often be delineated and in many instances interpreted in satellite imageries. In this context, the urban remote sensing must be able to provide planners with certain key datasets that pertinent to urban studies are the location and extent of the urban areas, the nature and spatial distribution of different land use categories within urban areas, the primary transportation networks and related infrastructure, census related statistics and socio-economic indicators, the 3D structure of the urban areas for telecommunication, intervisibility and environmental impact assessment studies, and the ability to monitor changes in the features over time and space. The urban issues are analyzed by using the remote sensing technologies. Urban land use inventories. It is quite natural that population growth increases the pressure on the land and the non-urban land is converted into urban areas. Population growth and city expansions ultimately influence the land use pattern of any urban centers. Knowledge of the patterns and intensity of the land use is relevant in urban planning, but the preparation of a land use inventory by conventional method is expensive and time consuming. The advantage of satellite imagery interpretation in terms of accuracy, timeliness, cost is indisputable in comparison to conventional methods. Study of urban sprawl and growth trends. Since satellite based remote sensing systems have unique capability to provide repetitive coverage of any part of the world, this makes it more suitable for monitoring and updating of urban expansion by using very high resolution multi-temporal remote sensing data, especially for town and country planning. Space use in the core area. From the monitoring point of view of a city area, information about land use only may not be sufficient for city administrators and planners in congested core areas. The true picture may only be visible from available information on actual space use. Space, however defined, has a location. Data necessarily refers to the point of time. In the absence of suitable large scale maps for such detailed studies, the principal use of very high resolution iconos satellite data provide a base for the survey recording of various activities in the field. The rest were confirmed or picked up during the field visit. Quantitative determination of space use allows in understanding the distribution pattern of various activities and functional characteristics within urban fabric, which is useful for quantifying the stress on existing infrastructure. Travel route pattern. Physical infrastructure of an urban center comprises of transportation, water supply, electric power supply, sewage, etc. The transportation system is one of the key to rapid modernization, particularly in developing countries, irrespective of whether roads act as a catalyst for development or play a more passive role in development. It is necessary to work out a judicious plan so as to avoid congestion, pollution and cost. The main objective of such type of studies using the remote sensing and GIS technology is to make network analysis of tourist place considering two factors. One is time and the other one is cost. This type of study provides a methodology for analyzing the optimum transportation network of tourist cities and can be very helpful when planning for the other cities also. Urban environmental analysis. Green spaces in cities exist mainly as semi-natural areas, managed parks and gardens, supplemented by scattered vegetation pockets associated with roads and incidental locations, embodying the garden city concept advocated by Ebenezer Howard and the large urban park idea propounded by Frederick Law Olmsted. In US, public green spaces have been increasingly designated in cities since 1880s to counteract environmental impacts on urban expansion and intensification. Plants, notably trees, have a wide range of environmental benefits, and urban green spaces often accommodate various assemblages of flora and small animals, providing readily accessible sites with natural ingredients. The role of remote sensing in the case of green or open spaces map and analysis has become important for managing and maintenance of old and degraded spaces. However, it is important for cases remote sensing can supplement or partially replace a tedious ground survey methods. Moreover, ground methods have limitation as whole area may not be assessed in one go and information collected may not be as accurate as possible through remote sensing. Aided by Limited ground survey. Remote sensing not only provides spatial data but also allows us to compare temporal variation in spatial data, which is essential for green or open spaces management. Site suitability analysis. A number of workers have identified various criteria including soils, hydrology, topography, vegetation, climate, existing build-up areas, transportation routes, etc. to find out suitable areas for location of development activities. The most commonly technique for suitable analysis is weighted suitable method. The weighted suitability is more complex. In order not to be biased, the weighting the aspect scales should be normalized, that is used in the same numerical range. Such a scale can accommodate qualitative and quantitative data, but the scoring of the quantitative data to such a scale needs qualified professionals. The next step is assigning the weight factors. This is of course the critical element in the approach. Weight factors are often based on the mixture of implicit knowledge, personal experience and individual values, that is usually called professional judgment. Social infrastructure. In most Indian cities, the municipal bodies have primary responsibility to cater the basic needs of citizens by providing required essential services and infrastructure facilities. But during the last century, cities throughout the developing world have seen an extraordinary increase in their population size, which has put tremendous strain on the delivery of basic infrastructure services. A major concern of municipalities in developing countries is the limited access of urban service of large parts of the city population. Equitable distribution is becoming the center of concern in the planning the infrastructure facilities. There is an urgent need to solve this problem of unbalanced distribution of infrastructure services. The social infrastructure facilities basically include banks, post office, schools, medical facilities, etc. For each facility, the proposed indicators are the number of facility, total population of the ward, number of facility, total area of the ward. Remote sensing and the GIS is capable of extracting urban land cover information with robust result. Satellite remote sensing with repetitive and synoptic viewing capabilities as well as a multispectral capabilities is a powerful tool for mapping and monitoring the ecological changes in urban core and the peripheral land use planning, will help to reduce unplanned urban sprawl and associated loss of natural surrounding and biodiversity. On the other hand, moving further, interfacing of the urban planning models with GIS should now receive a due attention. Incorporation of land use transportation model, network analysis, stimulation of urban activities to evaluate different urban development alternatives in the GIS framework need to be explored for added advantage. Land use planning, community facilities planning, transportation planning and environmental planning all can benefit from this information. Rapid development in city possess several challenges including problems associated with urbanization for urban managers and policy makers. Meeting these challenges requires access to timely and reliable information.